Hello, and welcome to a late afternoon, early evening edition. It's 6:30, so I don't know where that falls on the timing spectrum, but it's time for 30-minute reviews because news broke shortly. Shortly implies in the future. A little while ago. And that news is a follow-up to a story that we didn't cover on here because I'm not going to sit here and basically speculate regarding, regarding what days are going to be, what's going to come out on what untitled release date for Marvel Studios, because baseless speculation does not provide for interesting content, let's be honest. So basically what happened was, at New York, or San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel put out a release slate. As part of the release slate, there were a few dates that did not have movies attached to them. And that could be for any number of reasons. Directors not attached, talent not attached, things like that. And one of these dates was February 2024, which would have been between Thunderbolts on one end and late 2023 would have been. Oh no, it would have been between whatever and Captain America. Captain America in May 2020. What the fuck are you doing? I tend to record these while I drive, and every once in a while you see some kind of chicanery that you're like, what the fuck is this? So, what I was saying was, Captain America was May. It was a February date. I think it was November 2023. Oh, Blade. It would have been between Blade and Captain America. So, it was speculation, what could this movie be? Then that date got moved, and I think at the time there was speculation that it would be Deadpool, because Deadpool 3, because Deadpool opened, it would have opened like February 12th, which I think was the day that Deadpool opened. It was that same weekend in 2016 that the original Deadpool opened, and it opened very well in February, so it makes sense that you would keep that February date. But it's a Marvel Studios thing, and it's also Deadpool, so you can open it any time of year and it'll do just as well, as evidenced by Deadpool 2 doing pretty well in 2018 in July. So Deadpool 3 was speculated to have that slot. For whatever reason, they didn't announce that day. Then D23 came. There was no clarification as to what would be coming on those dates. I don't think there was any new release date announcements. But in between, after D23, between then and now, when they unveiled the release slate, they moved around some dates. They delayed Haunted Mansion into August of 2023. And then they also, there were a few other dates that got shifted, and then things got officially dated, including Inside Out 2, and a few other ones got official. This is the day this movie's coming out. Again, nothing moved from Marvel besides this February date relocated to September, which is September 6th, 2023, or 2024. And the speculation was, well, what movie could it be? And a lot of people were saying Deadpool 3. And now we know for certain that it is Deadpool 3. And that will be Sean Levy directing. Sean Levy previously worked with Ryan Reynolds on Free Guy, which is fantastic, and the Atom Project, which I was not thrilled about. But it did come out, and it was, it is what happens if you throw a lot of money at a movie screen and then, or at a Netflix movie, and then see what happens. So it's an interesting kind of approach that, and going with him, that's a good choice, I think, because those two work well together. And then came today's announcement with that. Not only will Deadpool 3 be coming out on September 6th, 2024, so 2 years from now, or a little under 2 years from now, we'll have Deadpool 3, but Deadpool 3 will also feature the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And the official title card reminds me of the title card, or the official logo reminded me of the logo that they released for season 2 of Daredevil, which featured the Daredevil logo with bullets in it, to showcase that it'd be Daredevil versus Punisher for at least part of the season. And that was an interesting kind of idea. And I like that. This one is the Deadpool logo that everyone's familiar with Wolverine's claws going through it. With the tear of Wolverine's claws. And it's a great marketing thing. And I think that it'd be a great place to introduce Wolverine. That said, and I said this with the reveal of the trailer for Multiverse of Madness back in February, I don't need more Patrick Stewart. I don't need more Hugh Jackman. Not in acting, not to say in general in acting. What I mean is I do not need to see them in these roles anymore. I think that Logan was a perfect send-off for these two characters. Logan being, the death of Professor X in Logan is a perfect send-off for that character. And to bring him back to die in Multiverse of Madness, didn't feel like a good enough reason to bring the character back, if you ask me. I don't think there is a good enough reason to reopen that book. And look, I know how this is going to work. This is not going to retcon Logan. They're not going to resurrect him. I think they're going to still use his death in Logan as the hard end of Hugh Jackman's run as Wolverine. This will be something that happened before that, because I think we're still technically before that point. Because I think you can still do it where it's like he's going to end up there. But at the same time, it's like, so how does that work with Professor X being dead? And unless they're just going to say, fuck continuity, we're bringing this back because everyone knows who he is, which is entirely possible. But then again, because that's what they did with Professor X, but then look at Spider-Man, where they did kind of somewhat play with continuity in a weird way for the villains who came in for No Way Home, and the three Spider-Men who came in from No Way Home, or the two Spider-Men who came in from No Way Home. And again, what content they're picking and choosing at Marvel Studios what they want to keep from other studios, because it appears that Daredevil, as we see him in Marvel Studios, while it will be Charlie Cox, and while Kingpin will be Vincent D'Onofrio, and according to reports, John Bernthal will be the Punisher for Marvel Studios going forward. It's also very possible that they pull that they don't do that they pick and choose what they want to keep as canon and what they don't want to keep as canon. And that is an interesting way to play with these things. That is an interesting way to keep this in a weird, to keep this in a weird Naruto canon, as it was once described to me. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was, by a friend. She said that to her, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Naruto canon. It was as canon as you want to be. And if you don't want to consider it canon, you don't have to. You don't have to have seen it. And in a weird way, that's what it seems they're doing with a lot of this stuff. At the same time, I feel like this would have been a good way to introduce and or kill off what you want to and don't want to. And it still does have that capability to be that. But at the same time, I feel like using Wolverine, specifically using Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, is not a great way to go about it. Because that is, I think, in terms of that character, and specifically that run on the character, I think it is a perfect send-off. It is a near-perfect send-off to that character. And I remember, I've seen that movie multiple times since watching it in theaters that first time. It got to the point where, on the podcast, I thought about it, because I think I did a podcast episode about seeing it the second time, which was rare. Where it's I did it for, I think, Endgame, seeing Endgame the third time in theaters, because Endgame that was also a Dolby Cinema review, because it was my first time using a Dolby Cinema screen. But looking at, Logan, I was gonna see Gifted. I had free tickets to see Gifted, which was a Chris Evans movie where he plays a father or adopted father of a young girl who is incredibly intelligent, and they have to do what's best for her. And it was supposed to be pretty good. I actually never ended up seeing it, but what ended up happening was I got the tickets through GoFobo, which, that's how I saw Sing Street early, and then I ended up seeing, I was going to see Gifted, and it was going to be 3 weeks early, and I was like, awesome. So I show up at the theater, and the link is not tied to your account. Anyone with the link can just do it, and a bunch of Stony Brook students shared the link around, and they all got in to see this, and they all went at once and got in before me, because it also doesn't limit based on number of seats in the theater. So as an apology, AMC gave me a voucher to use on another screening. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm here, I'll use it to see Logan. So I saw Logan a second time there, and then I've watched it multiple times because I have it on 4K Blu-ray, and I've watched that movie multiple times since I saw it in theaters, and I have not seen it and been like, this does not hold up to the degree that it did the first time I saw it. It is just as good every time I watch that movie. And I do not think that, look, it's not going to tarnish it where I'm going to go back and watch Logan and be like, I don't buy that. Like the people who go and are like, well, seeing, for example, The Last Jedi, seeing The Last Jedi makes me go back, and it ruins seeing, it ruins seeing the original Star Wars movies because I know where Luke ends up. I don't buy that, because those movies still stand on their own as among some of the best cinema in American history, in the history of cinema. At minimum, Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back are in that conversation. And that's not just me. AFI has A New Hope in their top, I think it's in their top 50, let alone top 100. I want to say it was number 14 or something last time I saw they had the AFI at Barnes & Noble. But anyway, they don't do that anymore. But looking at, it's not going to go back and retroactively ruin that. This movie is going to be tarnished by the fact that one sent that character off in such a great way. In the same way that, again, for me, Mandalorian Season 2's ending did not hit the same way as it did for a lot of people. For people who did not like the ending of The Last Jedi, I think it worked a little bit better, because it's we're getting to see the Luke that we were hoping to see. For me, seeing Luke become the ultimate embodiment of Yoda's teaching, seeing him go in and be that, get his own hallway sequence, didn't feel right. On top of the fact that the other two characters that we had seen get hallway sequences were villainous characters. It was Maul in at the end of the Clone Wars, and it was Vader in Rogue One. So seeing those two characters get, and then seeing Luke get it didn't feel thematically right to me, to give Luke that sequence, especially considering the other characters we had seen get that were both villains. And look, I know he's mowing down droids, and that isn't an issue, but whatever. So I'm not going to get into that again, but I feel like that's the issue we're going to run into here, and that was kind of what happened when I saw Multiverse of Madness, where I was like, look, I had seen the best way to send this character off, and I've seen this character portrayed very well in a number of movies. I don't think I need this moment. In a way, Anson Mount needed that redemption because he did not get that on his own in the Inhumans show. He got that because he didn't get it. He didn't have it the first time. And look, if we're gonna do something with, I would love to see a movie the remnants, maybe, of what happens on the Illuminati world in the aftermath of Wanda killing all of those people. The head of the Avengers, the head of the Inhumans, the head of the Fantastic Four, the head of the X-Men, and one of the biggest powers cosmically all die in one attack. How does the world react to that? I want to see that story. But anyway, with Deadpool 3, I don't think bringing back Hugh Jackman's a good idea, because I feel like I'm not alone in this, that Hugh Jackman got a perfect send-off. I saw comicbook.com had an article about how people are asking to see him in his classic comics outfit. I don't think I necessarily need to see that, because if you're going to do that, that's not Hugh Jackman's, Logan look, or that's not how he ever dressed. So if you're going to do that, do it with someone new. And I think I said it, after I saw Best of Enemies, the guy who plays Seneca Crane in the Hunger Games, I think is a perfect choice for a new Logan in the MCU. Because this is a one-off, which is what they're saying it is. It's going to be his last time. And if that's the case, and they're going to stick to it, then hopefully keep it as accurate as possible, where that's going to be the true final entry in this story. And I mean, look, even I don't buy it. I think that if the reception's good and if the money's right for Hugh Jackman, I think he comes back for Secret Wars. Because the placement of this movie, right as right with Fantastic Four being where it is, I think these characters are going to have a huge role going into 2025, where it's like the second to last movie before the big clusterfuck of Phase 6 is going to be Deadpool 3. I don't think it's going to be, either they're starting off the clusterfuck of Phase 6 with Deadpool 3 and they're shifting it where that's going to be the start, not Fantastic Four, or the last movie of Phase 5 is going to be Deadpool 3, akin to Ant-Man, ending off Phase 2. If that's the case, either way, you're going into this giant thing. And keep in mind too, Ant-Man ended up being the key to saving everything. And looking thematically kind of parallel there, and I hate being the person to do this. Look at what happened immediately before and immediately after Ant-Man. We had an Avengers movie, and then the next one right after it was Captain America Civil War. Here we have Thunderbolts, which is the end of the phase, and it's kind of the what's it called? It's kind of the palate cleanser in between, and then you end up like the sorbet, if you will, is going to be Deadpool 3 in the same way Ant-Man was, and then you had Civil War. Here we go into Fantastic Four, and Fantastic Four is going to kick off. What we look at as Phase 6 is going to be way different from how we looked at Phase 3 in the Infinity Saga, because the Infinity Saga Phase 3 was kind of telling a bunch of stories, because then Thanos came in and did his smash and grab to end, to collect the Infinity Stones, and it was more about setting the table. Phase 6 is shaping up to be a kind of cohesive story in and of itself, where it's like everything in there is building towards Secret Wars in a very real way, whereas here we didn't have that with Phase 3. But look, that's just speculation. I don't have any ins at Disney. Disney does not like me. But we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.